Thank you for being patient with my scrapbooking content while I recovered from my wisdom tooth removal. I'll probably still do that occasionally whenever I feel like it, and it'll just be on shorts. People may be wondering at this point why I haven't made a video dedicated solely to the Palestinian genocide yet. I have, under each video, put several links that you can go to aid Palestinians that have replaced my previous links. They've been there for months. Additionally, I did address it once when I got back from my short 2-month hiatus after my apartment exploded with sewage. But I haven't made a dedicated video to anything regarding the situation. And that is because I run into an issue when I'm expected to talk about super important global events that everybody's talking about. A million TikToks have been made about it. It's been covered across the news. I find in these situations that I don't have anything of substance to add. What I would be doing before this video would just be regurgitating what you have heard 300 billion times at this point. It's not even that what you've heard 300 billion times before isn't correct necessarily. It's just that I don't want to just repeat the same thing over and over and over again when TikTok has done so many times. And for a good reason, and I get it. I just want to be able to actually like add something to a conversation, and I feel like as a white person living in the United States, it's a bit hard for there to be anything useful for me to add to the conversation. I had this same issue when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, where I just felt like I wasn't doing enough, but I didn't know what to do. I had already made a video with my friend about how cops suck. So, like, what was I to do other than make a 4-minute video being like, I donate to these links, bye. I don't want to do that this time. I decided, as Pride Month is upon us, I have seen some content on how Israel is pinkwashing, but I have not seen millions and billions of videos on it. So this is what I'm going to do to promote the links in my description at this point. For those of you that are not aware, pinkwashing is the promotion of gay friendliness of a corporate or political entity in an attempt to downplay or soften aspects of it considered negative. Basically, it is neoliberal propaganda. Oftentimes, when a gay person on social media, or, even a Palestinian gay person like living in the United States speaks up on Palestine, and brings attention to the genocide, there will inevitably be a comment being like, why don't you just go to Gaza then? I'm sure they'll love you there. Basically saying that a lot of Palestinians are homophobic and that Palestinians wouldn't like them, so why are they trying to support them and stop their genocide? One thing that people always say back is that, and this is true, homophobia in the Middle East or a Middle Eastern country cannot be addressed. Those gay Middle Easterners cannot be addressed if the said Middle Easterners, in this case Palestinians, are being fucking murdered and starved to death. There are gay Palestinians being starved to death by Israel right now, bombed by Israel right now. They do in fact have other priorities. It just feels like the attention is being put in the wrong place for the time being, I guess. But the one thing I don't see people doing is fighting back, saying Israel isn't that great in terms of homophobia either. I don't see people getting out the receipts and being like, this is not the gay paradise you try to say it is. They're like, oh, Israel is the gay sanctuary of the Middle East. And I guess that puts the bar in hell, doesn't it? I did a ton of research, and my suspicions reign true that Israel is not as big of a gay paradise as you think it is. Let's establish some basics. Benjamin Netanyahu is Israel's prime minister, and he's on his 6th term. Man, I never thought I'd say this, but Thank God I live in the United States and presidents cannot have more than 2 terms. If the United States did one good thing, it was that. Fun fact about Benjamin, in 2019, he was indicted for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. And he had to relinquish all of his other ministry portfolios other than prime minister. According to my sources here, he held the agriculture, health, social affairs, and diaspora affairs portfolios. So he had to relinquish all of those, but he's somehow still prime minister. Could be the fact that he was indicted and not charged, which the trial is still going on amidst the genocide as we speak. And from what I've been reading, which is too much, Israel's government has become way more right wing just slowly over the past like 8 years or so, which sounds familiar. And a lot of the major parties in Israel are just right wing fascist parties. And apparently, Benjamin's current coalition is probably the most right wing coalition that he's ever led. Some of the characters under his power are horrible people, if you haven't already figured that out. I found 2 reports from the Aguda, which is a large nonprofit LGBTQ plus organization in Israel. They release their reports of LGBTQ phobic incidences. I think they do it every year. So during the COVID lockdowns of the year 2020, there was a 16% increase of young queer people that were forced from their homes. There was a 27% increase in reported LGBT phobic incidents. Homophobic hate crime was reported to the Aguda's Hate Crime Incident Center every 3 hours during 2020. They also released a report in 2022. There was an 8-fold increase in discrimination reports involving businesses, a 5-fold increase in LGBT abuse reports in the public sphere, and an increase about 53% in reports from trans people. These reports are very easy to find. I'm sure they dropped one recently for the 2023 year. A lot of them are showing an obvious upward trend in LGBT phobic incidences. A lot of the Israeli trends in queer phobia in the government, in the statistics, mirror that of the United States. Reading through these articles, what I've put together to put it into dumb American terms, Israel is if we took Florida, made it more genocidal, and then plopped it in the Middle East. So that's what we're working with here. I'd even say it's kind of fascinating, if it's not terrifying and horrible, how Israel is mirroring the United States. But instead of Christian fascism, it's Jewish fascism. Boy, do I love it when Abrahamic religions use their religions to be fascist. Anyways, let's go over some of the bastards that Benjamin has under his coalition this time around, which is his most right wing coalition that he's ever led. We got Avi Mas, who's an asshole. He is the leader of the extremist National Party of Noam. He helped Benjamin win, and he said queer people are a threat to the family. And then he went on to say that a woman's greatest achievement is to bear children and raise a family. Ew. Benjamin made him deputy minister, and he is in charge of his own little shenanigans called the Jewish Identity Unit. The Jewish Identity Unit, which aims to oversee external programs taught in schools, has ignited some concerns due to Mas's past inflammatory remarks about non-Orthodox Jews, women, and the LGBTQ plus community. Critics fear that under Mas's leadership, the unit may scrutinize and potentially censor educational programs, particularly those dealing with LGBTQ plus issues and sex. What does that remind you of? We also got Orit Struck, a religious Zionist member of the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament. Her party seeks a change to the country's anti-discrimination law that would include permitting people to avoid acts that go against their religious beliefs, including discriminating against LGBTQ people in hospitals. It sounds familiar. Simcha Rotman, another member of the party, said that private business owners, such as hotel operators, should be allowed to refuse services to LGBTQ if it harms their religious feelings. What a great bunch of lads Benjamin has put together here. They are currently trying to amend that law, but they wanted to amend it in a way that would prevent any harm to a private business that withholds services or products based on religious belief, as long as the product or service is not unique and a similar product or service is available nearby geographically and for a similar price. It is important to note Ben has come out and said Strzok's remarks are unacceptable to me and the members of the Likud, and that the coalition agreement does not allow discrimination against LGBTQ or harming their right to receive services like all other Israeli citizens. Do I believe him? No. And I think that quote came before, but they've been collaborating on changing that law from the previous quote that I've given you. So obviously, that's a whole lot of malarkey. I would never believe a prime minister, president, or dictator on their word. Who do you think I am? We also got from 2023 a Haredi member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition blasted the LGBTQ community in an interview Tuesday, saying that it was a graver threat to Israel than Islamic terror groups, and adding that it was his duty to prevent pride marches. Cool. So, like, Benjamin has a ton of terrible people just working under him in this government. And he's also on trial for fraud and bribery. This right wing escalation of the Israeli government is directly correlated with the escalation of the Palestinian genocide. For instance, in 2022, last week, Likud signed a deal with the far right Atzma Yehudit, the Jewish Power Party, led by Itamar Ben-Gvir, a gun-brandishing street agitator who has past convictions for racist incitement and supporting a Jewish terrorist group. Mr. Ben-Gvir is set to become a national security minister with expanded powers over Israel's militarized police force that operates in the occupied West Bank. He argues for the expulsion from Israel of disloyal Arabs and calls for Palestinians who throw stones to be shot by police. And also that Avi Mas guy that, made remarks about queer people. He also wants to reinstate conversion therapy, which Benjamin also said would not happen. But I don't really trust Benjamin at this point for a lot of reasons. That Avi Mas guy is also known for his anti-Palestinian views, other than his misogynistic and homophobic views. Shocker. Benjamin is willingly putting people that are not only queerphobic, but actively Zionist and genocidal under his increasingly right-wing coalition. Israel at the moment is apparently going through like a huge judicial overhaul, and it would make it so right-wingers have a much easier time gaining power and going through with some of the queer-phobic promises they've made. And bonus round, while doing research, I found a couple articles regarding some funky little hate crimes that are going around in Israel. In 2023, there was a vehicle that was in charge of taking down the pride flags from June. It was in a suburb of Tel Aviv, and that car filled with pride flags was set on fire in August of 2023. In the neighborhood of Neve Sha'anan, a pamphlet was given to all of them in their mailboxes that was 30-page long, describing how the rise of LGBTQ plus support directly correlates with the rise of Nazism. Anyways, have I made my point yet? Basically, anybody that's ever said you're gay yet you support homophobic Palestine, curious, is an idiot for several different reasons, but like the main one is that Israel is homophobic too. And Israel is probably one of the most in-your-face examples of pinkwashing I've ever seen in my life. And also, I simply don't think an entire culture deserves to experience genocide because some people are homophobic in that culture. I know, crazy thought, but I don't want to exterminate people that don't agree with me. How are we going to fix homophobia in Palestinian culture? How are we going to protect Palestinian gay people if Israel has killed them all? Go to Gaza and see how long you last. Not very fucking long, because Israel's bombing people and starving people. It won't be the Palestinians that get me, it'll be Israel that gets me. As they've been there for the past several months, links to aid Palestinians in the description. Moral of the story is if the United States says a country is queer friendly and that country happens to be performing a genocide, I wouldn't trust the United States on that.